Joining me now, without further ado, Nick Freitas, the new nominee for the 7th District of Virginia to go against Abigail Spanberger. Nick, let me start by saying congratulations on running and winning a great race.
No, thank you, John. I appreciate it.
The first question I have, are you going to be able to bring the opponents together? I know you got Andrew Nagg's backing on the third ballot. I've assumed you've talked to Delegate McGuire and Tina Ramirez. How did those conversations go, and are they all in?
They're both fully on board in order to make sure that we win in November, and Pete Greenwald as well, Jason Roberge. So I think we're all on the same page at this point. We realize these races are always tough, but everyone's committed to winning in November.
Well, I know you're going to win this race, but Spanberger is a very tough candidate. Tell me some of the main things here that is going to differentiate Nick Freitas and Abigail Spanberger.
Well, she is a tough candidate, and honestly, John, I wouldn't have it any other way. At this point, what I want to see is a real debate between conservative philosophy and left-wing philosophy, because we already see that debate playing out in our cities across the country right now. You see what's going on in Seattle on what happens when you allow for unilateral democratic control over something for 50 years. And it doesn't provide for good economic opportunity. It doesn't provide for healthy schools. It doesn't provide for safe communities. And so I can't wait to get on the debate stage and actually talk about their approach to solving problems versus our approach, because their approach includes more government power, except in the areas where it's actually needed. So they want more government control over your schools, more government control over your healthcare, more government control over your business. But when it actually comes to something like law enforcement, they're running on a platform of defunding it. So they want to interfere in every other aspect of life, but they don't want to do the one thing we actually established the government for, and that was to protect our liberty, to protect our property rights. And so I think it's going to be a great opportunity to debate these two competing philosophies.
Are you going to get her out? Because we haven't heard a peep out of Spanberger. She used to come on my show every month. Then she got banned by the DNC or something, or her own campaign. So she doesn't come on anymore. They don't return our calls. So let me ask you, I mean, she's been silent on the mob, silent on the looting, silent on Richmond being looted and burned down. She's been silent on everything. How do you draw her out?
Well, she's taken the Joe Biden strategy at this point, which is say as little as possible and don't get involved in any sort of discussions about what's going on. We're going to challenge her to multiple debates. We're hoping she will participate in as many as we ask for. She, again, one of her campaign promises is that she was going to do town halls. She was going to be out there. She was going to be available to the public. So this is a perfect opportunity. It's a big district. Let's have plenty of debates so that we can actually give everybody, no matter where they live in the geography of the district, the opportunity to see the debates. And so we'll see if she accepts them or not. If she doesn't, we're going to continue to do town halls. We're going to continue to do events because we want the opportunity to be able to discuss what's going on.
Well, that's the one thing that I love about you, Nick, is you're willing to talk to anybody now. Can I assume that your town hall meetings are going to be open to anybody in the district?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is not one of the things I understand.
Voters, right? Anybody to go and vote.
Yes, we've been in, look, I've been in the House of Delegates for 5 years. And my attitude is when you get elected, you're representing everybody, not just who voted for you. You're representing everybody. And so you need to be able to listen to different opinions, different perspectives, so that you can actually try to find a way to work together, so you can find a way to effectively represent the people in your district. And it doesn't mean you're always going to agree on policy, but you have to be willing to take the time to hear the counter perspective. And I'm always willing to do that. I think it makes me a smarter, more effective legislator when I do.
Well, I'd say what? I like the fact that you were able to get together with John and Tina and Andrew immediately. Andrew Nags ran a great race backing you in the third round. I guess in the third balloting, I'm just going to say this. Somebody told me 776 people voted, but you got 56%. And I was still getting texts from people saying, he's still at risk. Turned out you were not. That's why I think you would have been the nominee in any nominating format. But how do you take this momentum now and bring the party together? I mean, there's so many disparate factions. What is your first order of business in bringing all the Republicans and independents that like your message? How do we bring everybody together?
I think there's two ways. I think regardless of where you are, I mean, we always talk about these factions within the Republican Party, but ultimately, if you look at the Republican creed of Virginia and you look at our emphasis on free markets, on a strong national defense, if you look at our emphasis on budgetary restraint and fiscal responsibility, these are things that unite all Republicans. We're not having a major debate about these values. And as long as we focus on those core values, I think we're going to unify Republicans. The other thing, too, is I think not just Republicans, but a lot of people that are moderate swing voters, they are looking at what has been going on, whether it's in Seattle, whether it's in Minneapolis, whether it's in Richmond. And they don't want that. They don't want that sort of disruption. They don't want a situation where outside groups can literally come from outside your city, outside your state, turn a protest into a riot, and then watch as Democrats do nothing about it. I think they're terrified of that. And they want to see an alternative that actually respects First Amendment rights, but also respects property rights, respects all of our desire to be able to run a business, raise our families, send our kids off to school, and not have to be terrified about what's going to happen. And so when we look at all those things together, they unify not only Republicans, but I think we're going to unify. We're going to bring a lot of people back home to the Republican Party, and we're going to have a lot of moderates that are not only looking at our message, but actually looking at the substantive things that this president has done to make their lives better. Democrats want to talk about criminal justice reform. President Trump has done more for criminal justice reform than any president in my lifetime. And it's about time that people hear that side of the story. And I think when we talk about these things in the debate stage, in the town halls, we're going to see a lot of people coming back to the Republican Party. I don't think we're just going to win in the 7th District. I think we got a great opportunity to boost our numbers, even on top of what President Trump got in 2016 when he won the 7th District by almost 7 points.
You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth across America. Great to have you with us. I'm your Godzilla of the Truth. We're with Nick Freitas. He's the Republican nominee in the 7th District of Virginia to go against one-term incumbent Abigail Spanberger. Nick, you bring out a good argument. Trump carried the district by 7 in 2016. I'm convinced he's going to carry it again by the same amount. I don't think that his support there is going to go down. If anything, it goes up. That's why I think you're going to win this race. I've got a lot of people that have called me that have backed you, from Tim Phillips to For Americans for Prosperity to the Club for Growth to others. How have you been able to put this coalition together?
Well, a lot of it has to do with what I've done in the General Assembly for the last 5 years. When you look at these conservative organizations that support the president and also want to see us win, one of the big things that they're looking for in a candidate is their voting record. Have they actually done what they said they would do? Can we depend on them to legislate the way that they campaign? And I think the other thing is I've been willing to actually stand up on the floor and take on my Democrat colleagues in the floor debate. I've been willing to go into hostile situations with the press and be able to take them on and be able to win effectively. And that's what they're looking for. All of us, we want someone that's going to do what they say on the campaign trail once they get elected. And we want someone, I think at this point, people are tired of a Republican that goes up to Washington, D.C., occasionally votes the right way, and then hides in their office. Republicans right now want to see someone that's actually going to get up and articulate and fight for what we believe and fight for our ideas. And I think if you do that effectively and if you do that consistently, then people are willing to trust you, whether it's individual voters or whether it's those conservative organizations that a lot of those individual voters belong to and contribute to.
I think you're spot on. A couple of federal issues. Right now, there's a meeting today in the White House with Republican senators for COVID-19 response economically. The president wants a cut in payroll taxes, or he wants to eliminate payroll taxes on both sides for 6 months. He thinks that's going to spur the economy on. It seems like he doesn't have 100% backing for that. Republicans, many of them want to just extend the $600 a week federal unemployment through the end of December. If you were in Congress now, you would have to take this up. Do you favor either of these or neither?
I think what the president's approach is the correct one. It's easy for politicians to get up there and say, well, we'll just hand out more money. At some point, we've got to understand that you cannot just spend your way out of this. But the best and most effective way to do this is not for the government to confiscate a bunch of money from taxpayers and then give it back. It's really then don't take it in the first place. And that's the sort of approach that the president is trying to use right now is, look, leave the money back in the economy where we're starting to see great job numbers in May, great job numbers in June. People are going back to work. They're having opportunities, right? That's what we need to be fostering right now is more economic opportunity, not just politicians handing out money that we've got to use the printing press to create. And so, no, I think the president is right on this. That has always been the right course of action is cut taxes, get rid of these regulations that not only prevent businesses from owning and operating, but actually prevent people from having access to health care. There are so many, just ridiculous government regulations at federal and state levels that stand in the way of Americans being able to get access to affordable and quality health care. And so the president throughout his entire term has focused on reducing taxes, reducing regulations, making it easier to do business in the United States, making it easier to have access to health care in the United States. That's the course of action we should be taking.
No question about it. You would be in favor, I don't want to tie you down here, but I'm just trying to get as close as I can. So it sounds like you would be in favor of the president's plan to cut payroll taxes for both employers and employees. Is that what I've heard?
Cutting taxes, I think, is always a good idea, especially when you look at how much in taxes we're all paying right now.
Let's get to masks, Nick, and to school openings. And I'm going to give you the platform here, but personally, I love the president's approach now on masks. He says it's the same thing as Brian Kemp in Georgia, where they say, look, masks are a good thing, encourage you to wear them, but we're not going to have a federal or a mandate, and in Georgia, not a state mandate to wear them because it's up to each individual, but encourage you to do so. I've kind of changed my position on it because I'm just worn down. I was an anti-masker. Now I just put it in my pocket. I go into Walgreens, I put it on, I come out, I take it off. I'm just tired of fighting with people over it. And, maybe it'll help, maybe not. I don't have any idea, but if it's going to help kids get back to school and employees get back to work, I've kind of thrown in the towel on with that. I think that's kind of the president's approach now. I thought he was spot on yesterday when he said, hey, wear them, but I'm not going to make you wear them. How do you stand on that?
I mean, isn't it nice to see a chief executive actually display humility? It's this idea that, look, there's positive sides, there's positive information that this can potentially help. So I'd encourage you to do it, but it's not my job to use the force of government to compel you to do so. We need a whole lot more of that in all levels of government. Put out good information, let people make informed decisions. And then when it comes, I do the same thing. I have a mask with me because if I go into a business, that's their property. And if they would like me to wear a mask, okay, I'm willing to accept that because, again, it's their store. So I think it's easy for people to be respectful of other people and to choose what they need to do based off of their own health conditions or their own concerns. But my gosh, we don't need the government coming in every 5 seconds telling us if we don't do what they want us to, they're going to punish us. And that's where you see a huge contrast between someone like President Trump and Governor Ralph Northam. And you see the same thing with the schools at this point. I think it's fascinating that everyone's going to be paying the same taxes in property taxes and whatnot for their school, but they're not going to be able to send their kids back, or they're going to have to send them back on some sort of convoluted schedule that doesn't make sense for anything. When this would have been a perfect opportunity to actually provide for more school choice so that parents could actually provide their kids educational opportunities during a time where there's a lot of uncertainty, but they would have been able to find something that works best for their child. And as much as Republicans have tried to do that, as much as the president's tried to do that, Democrats have always told us, no, there's a one-size-fits-all solution, and it's going to be a government-run solution. Well, now they're not implementing that solution. Our kids are left out, and they're not giving parents any options. And it just goes to show that, once again, the contrast. We believe in choices and options for people. Democrats believe in controlling what they do, how they educate their kids, how they run their business, what they do with their body. And people are tired of it.
Are you in favor of schools being open in the fall for classrooms 100% of the time or not?
I think schools should be open, but it's more than that, John. What I'm tired of is the one-size-fits-all government approach to education. And this situation creates a perfect example where we could have done something better for teachers, we could have done something better for students by just providing more educational opportunities, whether it's online training, whether it's tutors, whether it's smaller classrooms. These are things you're not going to get when the government insists on micromanaging education. And so the solution was not, do we open it up 30% of the time or to full capacity or 100% of the time. The solution was, why don't you allow parents, teachers, and local school districts to come up with solutions that work best for them and instead of trying to micromanage the process from Richmond. But again, they can't help themselves. I feel like this governor is just thrilled to have all this power under a state of emergency, which, by the way, is turning out to be a never-ending state of emergency, which is something I plan to address in the special session. Instead of allow local communities to be able to create solutions that work best for them.
Let's talk very quickly about the special session. When is it, and what do you plan to do there?
It's going to start August 18th. It's supposed to be surrounding bills dealing with COVID, bills dealing with criminal justice reform. I think there's some proposals that have been put forward that have broad-based support. Unfortunately, there's a lot that have not. Democrats are already using this as an opportunity to go for gun confiscation again, which
right.
I find the tone deafness is just incredible. When people are worried about, all these lockdowns with COVID, when people are worried about protests, which turn into riots sometimes, and all of a sudden the Democrat solution is we're going to take your guns away at the same time they're trying to defund the police. I mean, their whole argument was you don't need firearms because the police will protect you. Now their argument is we still want your firearms, but you don't get the police either. It's just absurd. And so I think some of the things we need to focus on have to do with permanently removing some of the restrictions that stand in the way of people having access to health care, some of the government regulations. We suspended those regulations during COVID. Maybe we need to reevaluate whether they should exist at all. I think some of the other things that we need to look at have to do with when a governor can declare a state of emergency and for how long. I think if they want to declare a state of emergency for a long period of time, they should have to come back to the legislature and get approval to do so. So we actually have a check on that sort of abuse of executive power. I think we need to remind the governor through legislation that the Constitution does not go out the window when there's a state of emergency. So I think there's a number of things that we need to address on a practical level with healthcare, with criminal justice reform, and we need to pass criminal justice reform that is not anti-law enforcement. There is a difference between the conservative approach to criminal justice reform and a left-wing approach, which is just inherently anti-law enforcement.
All right, Nick Freitas, we're out of time. Nick Freitas is going to defeat Abigail Spanberger